Welcome to Survive or Thrive, a series where we see what would happen if you were permanently transported into a video game. We'll analyze 8 different aspects of the game's world and rate them on a scale of 1 to 5. At the end, we'll add them all up to figure out if you would just survive or truly thrive. So, you've just magically swapped places with Link at the beginning of Ocarina of Time. How screwed are you? Let's just lay out 2 core assumptions real quick before we get into it. 1. Link is no longer in the world anymore. You're in Kokiri Forest, and Link's on your couch. You're trying to survive, and he's probably just gonna watch some Netflix. And 2, you don't have access to most of the meta aspects of the game. Things like backing out to the main menu, accessing an inventory, abusing glitches, nothing like that. I say most because it still is a video game world after all. There are a few quirks you can take advantage of that I'll talk about later. Okay, you just finished watching the opening sequence of Ocarina of Time. You blink, and somehow you find yourself in Link's house. First things first, you're probably thrown out of Kokiri Forest. This place is inhabited by a race of beings that are permanently children, and I doubt they'd take too kindly to you appearing in here out of nowhere. I think there's a possibility that the Deku Tree might hear your case and let you stay in Link's house, but honestly, I feel like the best course of action is to leave and be with normal human beings. Ah, the open world. We can finally get to living. But before that, before we take a single step, I feel like I have to address something. The world's scale. I mentioned this in my Ocarina of Time video game world tour episodes, but I think Hyrule in this game is shrunk down. Like, isn't it weird that Hyrule Castle, Lon Lon Ranch, and Kakariko Village are so close together, and the day's length is measured in minutes, not hours? So I figured that the world we see on our screen is actually scaled down from the real Hyrule. In actuality, settlements are much further apart, and days are of normal lengths, just like our world. It was only when I got into old school RuneScape that I learned this idea has a name: scale theory. Gielinor is similar in that way. Towns and cities are much closer together than they would be in a hypothetical real world. So where does that leave us with Ocarina of Time? If you were put into this game, would you be in the world we can physically see while playing, or the true version? I'm gonna go with the world that we can see. While this hypothetical, scaled-up version of Ocarina of Time might be more realistic, we don't know any of the fine details of it. We'd just be making assumptions about things that aren't actually in the game, so we'll just stick with what is. Which leaves us in an interesting place in regards to our necessities. Water is at the front of the list in terms of things you need to survive. As a general rule, you can only make it 3 days without water, and since the full day and night cycle is just a little less than 4 minutes, you'd think you'd be screwed. But I think since you're a human coming into this world, your internal functions would continue at the pace they would on Earth. It's not like your body would start over-consuming water to the point where you would only last 12 minutes in Hyrule compared to 72 hours on Earth. I assume the amount of water and food you need stays the same. But honestly, it's not like it matters. Water would not be hard to procure in this world. Considering there are towns set up all over, there are likely supply chains in place to get all those people the water they need. One more person in Castletown or Kakariko won't do much in terms of water availability for everyone. And even if you don't want to assume that there's a supply chain for that, you could easily get water from Lake Hylia and purify it yourself. You can trace this water back from Lake Hylia here, through Gerudo Valley, into and out of Castletown, all the way up through Zora's River, with the true source being Zora's Fountain. Where this gets supplied from, I don't know, but it keeps on flowing. And most importantly, it's not salt water. Presumably. It's definitely not nasty looking, so a simple water boiling could clean this up for you in no time. 5 out of 5 for water availability. While water is no problem, food I'm not so sure about. There are only so many cows at Lon Lon Ranch. I guess NPCs don't technically need to eat, and I don't really think you being put into this world would make them suddenly need to eat, so maybe it's not as bad as I think. Considering there's enough cows to start yourself a farm here, I think you could get production up to the point where you'd never have to worry about calories again. You'd be drowning in meat. In regards to nutrition outside of just eating steaks, a few comments pointed out in the last video that there's more to an animal than normal beef cuts. If you get funky and start eating kidneys, livers, brains, you'll be getting a lot of essential nutrients. Though I can't think of any vegetables in the game. No crop fields, market stalls with food, anything. I guess I'll ask you guys, considering I'm not a nutritionist. I know you could survive the short term without vegetables, but long term, would cow kidneys, livers, brains, etc., would those cause any problems in the future? Would you still be missing some key nutrient, or could they be dangerous? I don't know. If you do, leave a comment. Outside of just cow meat, there are things like deku nuts, chickens, fish, and probably a bunch of stuff I'm forgetting. Octorok? Why not? I'm hesitant to give this world a 5 out of 5. The lack of noticeable vegetables sticks out to me. I'll rate it a strong 4 for food availability. Honestly, I'm sure eating all the parts of an animal would give you most of what you need nutritionally, but in my gut, I feel like I should be just a bit more conservative with my rating. Don't get me wrong, 4 is still pretty good. You could do much worse. Shelter. I mean, come on. There are multiple towns in this game. Though, how are you gonna get a place? I'm sure you could find a kind soul to house you for a bit, but eventually you'd want your own home. There's a construction business in Kakariko, but how are you gonna pay them to build for you? Where are you gonna get that kind of money? I was gonna do a whole thing about what types of jobs you could find in this world to slowly amass enough money to build a home, but you don't have to do anything like that. There are patches of grass in this game that have a chance to drop rupees when cut. Simply cut down a patch of grass, grab whatever rupees dropped, if any, leave the area, come back, and the grass is regrown, ready to be cut again. Now, this does kind of push against the boundaries of metagaming, like I described at the beginning of the video, but hear me out. While this world will be real to you in a lot of ways when you're inside, it's still a video game world. Like I said, I don't think NPCs would suddenly need to eat to survive. Water wouldn't suddenly start draining from Zora's fountain, and I think this grass would respawn after you leave the area. So that means infinite money, baby. It will take you a while to gather up anything meaningful, so I guess it's still kind of a job. Through this method, you could eventually accumulate enough rupees to pay the Kakariko construction guys to build your own house. Or you could just claim someone else's house as your own. Or you could live in a grotto somewhere. The options are limitless. I'll give it a 4 for shelter. Eventually you'd be fine, but finding comfortable shelter early on could be a bit easier. There aren't really a lot of empty homes to go around in the world here. This is where we get out of the necessities and start to look into the nice-to-haves. Safety. This is an interesting one, because towns are really peaceful. Kakariko is chill as hell. You could probably spend most of your time out of harm's way if you played your cards right. But there is one catch. Evil exists in this world. Ganondorf would be a real person that you'd have to contend with. Not even personally, just him existing in Hyrule would be a threat to your well-being. You saw what he did to the world after the time jump. Everything's hanging on just by a thread. He's an insanely powerful guy, with equally insane ambitions. But would his ambitions come to fruition? Ganondorf is only able to cause as much trouble as he does, because Link opens the door of time as a kid. When he does that, Ganondorf is finally able to enter the Sacred Realm and secure the Triforce. Would he be able to open the door of time and reach the Sacred Realm by himself? All you need to open the door are the 3 spiritual medallions, and he was already at work putting pressure on the 3 groups that hold the stones. whether they would have given them up or he would have taken them by force, I think it's possible that he could claim them all himself. This is literally his life's goal. I have no doubt in my mind that he'd do his best to find a way. But this raises an interesting question. According to the Hyrule Historia, when Ganondorf attempts to wield the Triforce, it splits into 3 parts. The Triforce of Power goes to him, Triforce of Wisdom to Zelda, and the Triforce of Courage goes to Link. What happens when Link's not available to receive the Triforce of Courage? Link's not even in the same plane of existence. He's in the real world, licking his Dorito dust-tipped fingers while watching road rage compilations on YouTube. Who gets the Triforce of Courage? I don't know. I could hype myself up and say it'd go to me, but being realistic, I doubt I'd be the most courageous being in all of Hyrule. I'm just a guy. Though maybe the sheer fact I'm a human would set me apart from everyone else in this world, and the Triforce would recognize that. I would definitely be the odd one out, but would that make me the most courageous? Hard to say. Maybe it would pick me, and I'd have to go on a whole journey to defeat Ganondorf. That's definitely not safe. And if someone else is chosen, the world's still gonna go to shit before a hero defeats Ganondorf. Which is an assumption, by the way. They might not best him in battle, and then I'm truly screwed. It seems like either way, the world isn't too safe. The best case scenario is that Ganondorf never finds a way to obtain all the spiritual stones himself before he dies, which is definitely not a given. Also, magic is real in Hyrule. I feel like the sheer fact magic exists would inherently make the world just the tiniest bit more dangerous at least. In a worst case scenario, well, we almost saw what happens in the worst case scenario. I'll give this world a 2 out of 5 for safety. I think the fact that you could live in a village like Kakariko without worry of being attacked by monsters day to day counts for something, but when an existential threat like Ganondorf exists, that counts for a lot more. Traversability. This aspect of the world isn't nearly as dire as Super Mario 64. In fact, I'd say it's about as nice as you could hope for in a game world. It'll only take you a minute or two to reach any of the major locations in Hyrule Field, and if you get a horse, whew, you're set. Nearly all of the areas blocked off to Link that's only accessible by using one of his many tools are located in dungeons. If you wanted to live a normal-ass life, you wouldn't need a hookshot. 5 out of 5. Socialization is another easy one. There are so many people in this world, it'd be easy to find a little group you fit into. Like, think of all the jobs you could have that sees you forming bonds with other people. You could run a market, join the construction group in Kakariko, work at the ranch under Talon. You have plenty of options to become part of a community. Another 5. Sustainability. I already kinda touched on this throughout the various sections. Food-wise, I think you'd be set for life. There are enough cows, chickens, fish, whatever in the world to feed you until your dying breath. Ganondorf does kinda affect the rating though. He's one bad dude. Because of him alone, I think the potential of a world-ending event is something you'd have to seriously worry about. If he does get his way and the world shifts into the state we see with older Link, living will get a lot harder. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I already accounted for the potential end of the world with the safety rating earlier, so I won't knock this one down too much, but it still plays a tiny part. Outside of maybe the world being ruled by the King of Evil, you could sustain yourself pretty well. Which leaves us with the X Factor. Is there some indescribable quality to this game world that would make it super nice to live in? Or is there something about it that feels off? I think Hyrule would be kinda cool to live in. I don't know about you, but every now and then, I feel a tiny calling within me to say goodbye to society and just live in the woods off the grid. Forget about bills, politics, world happenings as a whole. Leave all that behind and live a simpler life. And then, of course, I snap back to reality. I couldn't live by myself and never interact with anyone for the rest of my life. I'd go insane. I need mental stimulation from others. Plus, it'd be so hard to give up on societal conveniences that I've grown accustomed to. I think a world like Ocarina of Time would let me live an idealized version of my cabin-in-the-woods life. Twitter wouldn't exist. I wouldn't feel the need to go on there and see what's happening in the world and what people are saying about it. I could just focus on living day to day. But there's also some conveniences. I could be close to people who provide services I need. I could provide services to other people. I bet this world would feel like a nice change of pace compared to the increasingly atomized world we live in right now. 5 out of 5. And that's that. Let's go over the ratings I've given. 5 out of 5 for water availability. 4 for food. A 4 for shelter. 2 for safety. 5 out of 5 for traversability and socialization. 4 out of 5 for sustainability. And a 5 out of 5 for the X Factor, leaving us with a hearty 34 out of 40. This wouldn't be a bad world to live in. The only major downside is Ganondorf's existence, but if he's caught before he can get the Triforce, then it's smooth sailing for the rest of your natural life. Check out either of these videos up next. What do you think of the categories for the series? Should I change any of them out? Traversability feels like a weird one outside of platformers, but I guess it does make sense considering you will have to traverse whichever world you're in. I don't know, leave your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you next time.